to Driving Forward News. I'm Linda Meade-Barnette. Thankful to have Larry Gaines with us today. He's going to be joining us from Florida. He owns a national company, Automotive Development Group, and provides all the design services and functionality, construction and installation for dealerships across the country. And he embodies the leadership qualities, Armand, that you discuss and reveal in your book after studying human behavior for the past 30 years. He embodies those values, those traits that you speak of. And today, we welcome you, Larry. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And Armand Grossman, thank you so much for being our host. So I'll turn it over to you, Armand.
Well, thank you, Linda. Thank you for that warm introduction. And Larry, always good to be with you. It's always good to be with a car guy. I'm a car guy. I love cars. Linda loves cars, and it's a common passion. And so it's just great fun to be part of that. I know a little bit about your business, Larry, but I don't know that much about your personal background. What led you to become, it's always an intriguing question, what made Larry Gaines Larry Gaines? It's always an intriguing expose of why a person is so successful in business today. Tell us a little bit about that, Larry. What did you do before you got into the automotive space?
Yeah, well, I think what makes a good car is the way you handle turns and twists and everything else. And my life, like everyone else's, has many of those. So, started out in kind of the normal American life with a good family, middle income, but had a real good work ethic. My father and mother really did a good job of instilling that into the family. So from early on, was cutting grasses in the neighborhood, trying to make some money. And through that took a real quick course into corporate America, coming right out of high school, actually got in right in high school. So did that for 10 years, then moved into a sales position within this automotive industry. Did that for 5 years and then learned probably the most valuable lesson, which is the lesson of alignment. And what I found was that my beliefs and vision didn't align with the owner's beliefs that I was working for. It would have been nice if I'd have thought about this 5 years prior, but we found that out, went to this owner and tried to convince him that we needed to get aligned and that really he needed to get aligned with my vision. He didn't appreciate that, and I ended up getting fired. That was the first time I'd ever been fired, but deservedly so, really, as I look back at it, because it's his business, not mine. But that situation that came to be was really the birthing of Automotive Development Group. And so I ended up partnering with my Dave Bridges, and we decided to build a company that was set on vision, that meant you didn't have to act like much of what we were trained in corporate America, that you could have it all. All meaning not all of the riches, but all of the things that really mean a lot in life, including family time, right? Including being kind to others. So, that's how it was birthed. It was actually by getting fired.
Well, I particularly enjoy your comment about you inherited a good work ethic and that you mowed lawns when you were a kid. And I think you and I shared a discussion that I had once had with the great Jack Welch, and he was hiring 10,000 people a year at General Electric, one of the great CEOs in America ever. And they said, how do you determine who's going to be good and who's not going to be good? He says, we don't look at grades so much. We don't look at college experience. I asked a simple question: did you have a proverbial paper route when you were in high school? There's people who did that earned a work ethic early on. And it's wonderful that you did this. And I particularly enjoy your comments on the alignment of values. If the values are not aligned, it does not, the wheel doesn't roll well. I've often used the expression, if I may, of the spokes on a wheel. If the spokes are not aligned, that wheel will not roll very well. And even though it may be Lance Armstrong with a $15,000 bike, They're $100 are put into that bike, thousands of dollars, and yet at the $100 spokes, they're 89 cents a piece. If all those spokes aren't lined up right, the wheel will not roll. So that alignment plays a particularly important role. Tell me, what values in particular do you, having been so successful at your business, I want to hear about your business in a moment here, but I'm really intrigued by the fact that those values have led you to the pinnacle of your profession.
I think the first thing to understand is in alignment, just like with cars, the moment you get aligned and you pull out of the service shop, the forces of nature are pulling you out of alignment. So alignment is not a place you go to. Alignment is something that you continually work on. So you need to be very aware, right, of it. And then you obviously, with a vision, have to know where you're going. Otherwise, what are you aligning to? So having a vision and being intentional about alignment, I think is key. And it's something I've learned the hard way. I wish I could say I came out of the womb knowing all these things, but I've learned this through trial and error, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So, I would say that's the first thing. But as far as values go, there are aspiring values that you see companies sort of put on the wall. And those values are, the cliches, right? The things that we all see and hear, and you can Google what are great values of a company to have. The reality is having those types of values on your wall, if you don't demonstrate and live that, you're actually eroding the credit within your company. Your values are what you are, not what you aspire to be. So I think that's one thing that many companies and many individuals get wrong. You need to be living your values. Doesn't mean you're always perfect either. God knows we're not. But it should be, as you read those, you should be able to give example after example of first you living out, making decisions using those values, and then seeing that within your company.
It's easy to talk the talk, and it's a little bit more difficult to walk the walk. But when people who do walk the walk, they're authentic, and it's one of the most highly valued commodities, values in an individual when the person is absolutely genuine, and you realize that. But it's also heavily revealed in their actions, not necessarily in what they may assign on the wall and so forth. Larry, you took a company in 15 years. You have accelerated this company to the top, and I know that every viewer of this would want to know how that happened, because everyone would aspire to do just exactly that. You have done extremely well in your business. What would you say to them? What type of values that would you instill into that leadership value, into those emerging companies?
I would say never forget to take the position of the customer and your employees. As people that are really driven, we can get so locked into achieving a goal that we may achieve the goal and look behind us and there's destruction. I'm guilty of that. I have done that before. So again, I say this based off of lessons that I've learned in my life. But none of us can achieve greatness by ourselves, right? So having a vision, having alignment, knowing what your core values are. There's a term in the military of decentralized command. And it's where, right, you instill the vision and the values, and then you allow people in the field or wherever they fit within your company or organization to then they know what the purpose is and allow them to then make decisions, right? So no longer, because you can become, whether it's the weak link or the bottleneck otherwise, right? No matter how great you may be. And, for us, as Dave and I set out to really build a company, we didn't want to be the focal point of the company. We wanted the company, right, to stand on its own, the company to be the product, right? And so I think instilling the values.
Did you say the company is the product?
The company is the product.
That's a great statement, Larry.
Yeah.
The company is the product. And I think what you're saying, if I may paraphrase is an old adage, and it's interesting to me how sometimes the eternal verities, the so-called that are always true, have been around a while. We heard something along the lines of "do unto others." How about this one? As you sow. Everyone knows these, and yet are they pertinent in today's business? You're
Absolutely.
living. And you've taken a company in 15 years to the top of its field by adhering to such principles.
Yeah, but you know what? There's also a danger in that, right? The biggest threat to success is success. So, you know, I want to be more excited about our future than I am proud about our past. You know, not that I'm not proud about the past, but I want to be more excited about where we're headed. So, you know, for me, that's not hard. That part I don't have to work on as much as I do other things, you know, about myself. But yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we can latch on, and then we become protective. You know, it's human nature. Again, it's that alignment. It's going to pull us that way if we're not very intentional about who we want to be as a tribe and who we want to be as individuals.
Larry, you hire a lot of people. You've taken your company to the top, as we've said, and you have a lot of several employees, numerous employees. How many people do you employ in your company today, may I ask?
I just learned yesterday we have 70 employees in 5 offices in 3 states.
How do you select, when you're looking at companies and you want the alignment, how do you select those employees? What traits do you look at?
You know, that's a great question as well. And it's something that we've learned along the way, right? Was fairly naive when we started out, and we were going to pay a man's wages to do a man's job and then let them go. That wasn't fair to them. It wasn't their fault that these things didn't work out. That was our fault. You know, we were naive in this. So we look for people that are hungry, right? You need to be hungry to survive in our tribe. You need to be humble, because you can be hungry, but if you're not humble, you're not going to listen.
Right.
You know, you're not going to have the sincerity of being able to put yourself in someone else's position. And then obviously we want people to be smart. But of those 3, right, you can pair 2 of those together and you don't really get a good person. You don't get a good fit. So I think that the most valuable lesson that we've learned is that fit of the person and the values is a bigger weight than the skill set. And it's something we've learned along the way. Now, you need skills, but if you don't have that other aspect, then typically it does not work out long term.
Larry, last night I watched you may have watched the NFL draft. I watched it with great interest. I thought I was eager to see whether Cincinnati was going to take Joe Burrow, this amazing young man who transplanted himself and then would have been an obscurity as a kid who never got to play, to the #1 draft choice and a Heisman Trophy winner. It's interesting when people get into the right environment, what happens, and then they produce. But so much goes into the combine and trying to evaluate. Yet sometimes we see first-round draft choices that never really pan out, and we see the kid who's the walk-on who never even got drafted. I often allude to the fact that probably the greatest quarterback ever, Tom Brady, was a 199th round draft choice, choice in the 6th round. Everybody passed on this guy. And it was interesting, his combine report said, well, he's too slow, his hands are too small, his release is too this and so forth. And his response was, they don't know who I am. How can they say this? And sometimes that person that becomes that you hire, also your leadership and your values can actually be somewhat infectious as well. And they begin to take on the traits. And you said it a moment ago, they're watching what you do, not necessarily the placard on the wall, but they're observing you, and that is one of the great traits of leadership.
One of the things, Larry, that I wanted to ask, and you know, as you care for your employees, I see that you care also for your clients. You don't build a company like this and have the prestigious really top dealer order groups in America as your long-term clients without a great purpose, a common purpose, and leadership. So throughout, your growth period, we're now upon these, unprecedented times with the pandemic. Can you share with us a little bit about some of the actions you're taking and what your philosophy is on how you want to come out of this?
Yeah, and that's a good question because, we're all experiencing it, right? This is not only a industry or a country, but this is a global thing that everyone is dealing with. I think, the most important thing to remember is it's all a choice, right? We get to choose how we react to this. And I think that's extremely valuable. There's a saying in the military, another saying, I like reading about military history, is that, no plan survives contact with the enemy. That doesn't mean you don't plan, right? But you have to be ready once you make contact with the enemy to adjust your plan and to communicate at a high level. Well, we have an invisible enemy right now. So it's allowed us to sort of step back, to take some look into some closets maybe in our business that we haven't looked at before. But more importantly, it's given us the opportunity to engage with our clients in a way that we just want to care for them, right? Sometimes we can't even help. We just want to care for them. We want to connect with them. We want to say, how's it going? We've talked to, 40 dealers this week. Let me share collectively what we've heard. And, it's a time to support each other. And it's also a time, I've talked to my company about it. We've been harvesting for a long period of time. Life has been good. The industry has been good. The economy has been good. It is now time to plant. Before you plant, though, you've got to prepare the soil, right? So we're in a time of preparing the soil by connecting with our clients, by loving on our own people, but then also planting the seeds that we may harvest in the future. So for me, it's keeping it somewhat simple and understanding that you never underestimate the human element in a time like this.
Larry, it's been a pleasure. I believe that our time may be up. And is there anything, I often, as a former professor and had numerous kids, and every kid wanted to know, what's the secret sauce? They all wanted to become successful entrepreneurs. They all wanted to be independent. They all wanted to achieve that success. And the question that was asked of every person, every successful entrepreneur who came to my class, the same question was always asked. What's the magic? How do you do it?
There's a reason it's called secret sauce, right? It's because you can't take someone else's recipe and make it magic. I think the real journey is during your own journey through life, you create your own sauce. And if you believe in that sauce, it becomes special. People buy things that are special, not because of the way it's packaged, right? And so I think it comes down to a belief. Truly, it is a belief. It's not a mathematical equation. And, I was those same people. I would, and still do, right? To this day, when I get an opportunity is, hey, tell me, what made you successful? I want to be a student of leadership. So I'm constantly looking to understand, but at the same time, the more I learn, the more I understand that I have a unique gift given by God, just as we all do. My job is to try to find what my unique gifts are on this earth and apply them to the best of my ability, not to emulate someone else. That doesn't mean that there's not a huge advantage to studying people that have been successful and have went before me that I admire. It's exactly what we should do. But to truly understand that you build your own secret sauce. That is the beauty of it all.
There's never businesses, always it's up and down, up and down. And during those times of hard times, that adversity, what do you find as a result of that? As we're going through, as Linda's question, we're going through this pandemic right now. We're going through who knew this was coming? This was a body blow to the economy. And people are reaching deep within themselves to find a way to get through this. During those times, Larry, what do you find?
You know, it's, for me personally, it's my faith. It's my faith. Faith has played a large role. I discovered my faith very late in life. I wish I could say that I've always been there, but it was late in life. But you know, there were very specific lessons that I learned. Before that, I thought it was all about me. It was my effort. It was if I was smart enough, if I was this, if I was that. You know, and through my faith journey, I was introduced to a personal growth journey. You know, and through all of that, you know, I've learned that one, we are not built to survive on our own. That anything special is serving something bigger than yourself, whatever that is. And for me, it's my faith. You know, so that is the way that we're wired. And then you discover, or you remind yourself of those values, and you make sure that you're living them out. Don't let the environment or your atmosphere dictate who you are. Right?
You said something very profound, Larry. That I mean, interrupt, but you said something. It's, you know, life is a series of choices. It's a series of choices, and we choose. I've often made the statement: we choose to be healthy. That's not. I understand things can happen, and right, we choose to be wealthy in America. We can choose to be happy, and we can choose to be successful. I often ask people, how do you define success? It's a very fluid answer, and it's very individual. But if you could summarize that for you personally, how would you define success?
You know, that's easy because I have spent time thinking about it. And it is living a life where I'm pursuing my God-given ability while serving others.
Excellent, Larry. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be with you. Wishing you the best in these hard times, and all of your family, and of course your employees and your customers as well. It's so pleased that you would take such, be so generous with your time and join Linda and I.
Armand, thank you. Linda, thank you for inviting me. This has been great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you again, Armand, as always. And I look forward to our next conversation.